The rain had turned the jungle floor into a mess of mud and blood. It was supposed to be a routine reconnaissance and intelligence, gathering sweep through the green hell of Brazil's western border, near the lawless stretch where cartels, insurgents, and mercenaries all carved out their own fiefdoms. Sergeant Lara Mendez knew there was no such thing as routine anymore. The enemy wasn't a uniformed army. They were shadows with rifles, drones, and machetes, and now her commander was bleeding out in front of her. Captain Rodrigo Salles had been hit twice, once in the shoulder and once in the abdomen. His armor was cracked open, the smell of iron and gunpowder heavy in the air. Bullets tore through leaves and dirt inches from Lara's face as she crawled toward him. "Stay with me, Captain," she hissed, dropping beside him. His face was grey, lips trembling, eyes glassy. "You're hit bad. Finish the recon," Rodrigo gasped, gripping her wrist weakly. "You can't stop here." She ripped open her field kit, her fingers moving automatically. Tourniquet, pressure bandage, combat gauze. Her mind shut out the chaos, the thunder of gunfire, the radio static, the screams from a squad scattered in the trees. "You shut up," she said, pressing her knee against his side to keep pressure. "You're not dying here." He tried to protest, but she jammed a morphine injector into his thigh, ignoring his groan. Then she heard the crack of a sniper shot. One of her men went silent mid-scream. The jungle swallowed him. "Lara, pull back." Corporal Duarte's voice broke through the radio. "They've got us pinned from the ridge." "Negative," she snapped. "Sal's is hit. I'm not leaving him. You'll die there. Then I'll die working." She yanked his arm over her shoulder, muscles screaming as she dragged him through the mud. Every step felt like an eternity, her boots slipping, her lungs on fire. Tracer rounds zipped through the air, slicing vines, shattering bark. "Almost there," she grunted, but the ridge exploded in muzzle flashes again. Her radio crackled, then went dead. She ducked behind a fallen log, panting, clutching Rodrigo against her chest. He was fading. His eyes rolled, his breath shallow. "Don't you dare quit on me," she whispered fiercely. She tore her canteen open, dribbled a bit of water on his lips, then checked her bandages. The bleeding wasn't slowing enough. She needed a medevac, but they were deep in enemy territory. No choppers were coming until they cleared the area. That meant she had to finish the mission. She checked her ammo, 2 magazines, her pistol, a combat knife, and Rodrigo's M4 lying half, buried beside him, still warm. She hesitated for a second. Medics weren't supposed to be shooters, but that rule died the moment her team did. She kissed the cross hanging from her neck, whispered, "Disculpa, me," and slung the rifle over her shoulder. The jungle felt alive around her, insects shrieking, rain dripping like tears from the canopy. She moved like a ghost, every movement calculated, her heart a drum in her ears. She could hear them, the enemy patrol moving, laughing, speaking Spanish mixed with Portuguese. Narco, mercenaries most likely. She crawled through ferns, mud streaking her face, until she saw them, 3 of them at first, silhouettes against the green. One carried a radio pack. That was her target. She raised the rifle, exhaled slowly, and squeezed the trigger. One shot, the man dropped. The others scattered, shouting. She switched position fast, firing again, hitting another in the leg. The third opened up with an AK. Rounds ripped through leaves where her head had been seconds before. She rolled, aimed, and fired 3 short bursts. Silence. The jungle breathed again. Her hands trembled. She wasn't trained to kill not like this, but she couldn't afford hesitation. She grabbed the radio from the dead man's back, switched frequencies, and finally heard a voice. "This is Falcon 3. Anyone copy?" "This is Sergeant Mendez," she said, breathless. "Captain Salles is down, mission compromised. I need extraction coordinates. Copy that. We're 5 clicks out. Can you mark the LZ?" She glanced around. The clearing to the south would work if she could get there. "Negative on flare," she said. "I'll clear the area manually." "Repeat, Sergeant, that's suicide. Then pray I make it." She cut the transmission and turned back to Rodrigo. He was half conscious, his skin pale, soaked with rain and sweat. "I'm finishing it," she whispered to him. "You told me to." She dragged him another 50 meters toward a natural ridge. The mud clung to their gear. Every movement felt like drowning. Her uniform was torn. Her back screamed with every pull. She could barely breathe, but she didn't stop. The sound of boots came again, voices, closer this time. She froze, clutching her rifle. 3 more figures emerged through the fog, rifles up. She aimed, but the first one fired. The round grazed her shoulder, spinning her sideways. She hit the ground, teeth clenched, pain exploding down her arm. She rolled into cover, ignoring the blood. She could see their muzzle flashes now close. She waited until they advanced, then fired in controlled bursts. 1 fell, 2 more. The last man charged. She dropped him at point blank range. Then she just sat there for a second, shaking, the rain washing over her face. "You're insane, Lara," she muttered to herself, completely insane. She went back to Rodrigo, checked his pulse, still there, barely. She injected another stabilizer and wiped the blood from his lips. "Hang on, sir, I'm not done." She moved ahead, clearing the route meter by meter. The jungle was eerily quiet now, the kind of silence that made her skin crawl. Then she heard it, the mechanical buzz of a drone overhead. She ducked behind a tree, scanning. It wasn't friendly. She grabbed a smoke grenade, yanked the pin, and hurled it in the opposite direction. The drone followed the plume just long enough for her to drag Rodrigo into the shallow ravine below. She slipped, nearly fell face, first into the mud, but caught herself. Her muscles felt like fire. She'd lost count of how many hours had passed. All she knew was that she had to keep moving. Somewhere behind her, she heard a distant explosion, maybe one of their claymores. Maybe an ambush gone wrong. She didn't look back. Finally, she broke into the clearing. The trees opened up to a wide patch of soaked grass and a crashed truck halves, wallowed by vines, the perfect marker. She set Rodrigo down against the tire, checked his breathing, and switched back to the radio. "Falcon 3, LZ is clear, marking with infrared, copy that, ETA 2 minutes. She took a deep breath. 2 minutes might as well be a lifetime out here. Then she saw movement again, figures emerging through the fog from the opposite tree line. 5, no, 6. She raised her rifle. Her hands were steady now. The rain fell harder, streaking down her face. "You picked the wrong woman to follow," she whispered. The first one went down before he saw her. The second returned fire, bullets slamming into the truck beside her. She ducked, fired twice, felt one round rip through her sleeve. Another enemy circled left. She saw his reflection in a puddle, swung the rifle, and fired. He collapsed. She reloaded, 1 magazine left. The remaining men spread out, trying to flank. She tossed a grenade blind, heard a shout, then silence. The air smelled of gunpowder and wet soil. Her shoulder burned, her legs numb. She glanced at Rodrigo. His eyes were open now, faintly. "You didn't listen," he whispered. She laughed, a broken, breathless sound. "I never do, sir." Then the sound of rotors filled the air. The extraction chopper cut through the rain, wind whipping leaves and debris everywhere. She waved her rifle in the air, flashing the infrared signal. The side door opened. Commandos leaned out, weapons scanning. "We see you, Mendez," one shouted. She slung Rodrigo over her shoulder one last time, her vision narrowing, every step agony. The downdraft hit her like a wall, nearly knocking her over. She stumbled forward, yelling through the noise, until a rope dropped. Hands reached down, grabbed Rodrigo first, then her. The moment she felt her boots leave the ground, the world tilted. She looked down. The clearing was littered with bodies, smoke, and rain. Then it all faded to black. When she woke up, it was bright, the clean white of a field hospital. Her shoulder was bandaged, her ribs aching. Rodrigo lay in the next bed, hooked to Roman 4s but alive. When he turned his head and saw her, he smiled weakly. "You disobeyed every order I gave you. You're welcome," she said, voice hoarse, "and next time maybe don't get shot." He chuckled and winced immediately. "You're not supposed to fight, you know. Medics are supposed to save lives, not take them." She looked out the window where the jungle stretched endlessly to the horizon. Sometimes saving one life means ending a few others. Silence settled between them. Outside, soldiers moved through the camp, preparing for another mission. She wondered how many of them would come back. The next morning, when command came to debrief her, Lara stood at attention, her uniform crisp, her eyes steady. They told her she'd received the Ordem du Mérite Militaire for valor under fire. She didn't feel like a hero. She felt like someone who had simply refused to let another person die alone. That night she sat by Rodrigo's bed. He was sleeping peacefully. She took his dog tags in her hand, closed her eyes, and whispered a quiet prayer. The rain had stopped, but the jungle never slept, and neither, she suspected, would she, because out there, somewhere beyond the green horizon, another patrol was walking into hell, and if they fell she'd go back for them too.